Marvel Superheroes in War of the Gems is the infinity gauntlet of games of this kind. Up to this point, Capcom had created some of the best third-party games ever seen, but for this game, they iterated on some of their previous fighting games, then added in some mechanics from the best beat-em-up and platforming games they'd created in the past, to assemble a game that could be described as inevitable. First, we will collect the different mechanics and assemble them into the Gauntlet. Then we will examine the Gauntlet to see how all of the mechanics fit together. The golden goose for Capcom in the 90s was Street Fighter II. Capcom had already revisited, iterated, and remixed that game to death, to the point where even Capcom can chuckle at this part of their past in this trailer for Dead Rising 3.
Super Ultra Dead Rising 3 Arcade Remix Hyper Edition EX Plus Alpha!
All of these updates were built upon the foundation that was the fighting game system created in Street Fighter II, and this will be our first stone. X-Men Children of the Atom uses the foundation of Street Fighter II, but includes a narrative adapted from the Fatal Attraction comics. The X-Men battle Magneto in an attempt to prevent him from firing an electromagnetic pulse. This game includes long airborne combos and multi-tiered arenas for the characters to battle it out in, mechanics that would later define the Marvel vs. Capcom series. But it's the comic narrative adaptation that becomes the second stone that we need for our gauntlet. Marvel Superheroes is a fighting game that also includes a narrative inspired by a comic book storyline, but this time that story is included in the game's mechanics. Adapting the Infinity Gems saga into a fighting game, the heroes include Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk, and others in their struggle to collect the Infinity Stones before Thanos. After a stone is collected, they grant different power-ups to the characters wielding them. This flair for including new mechanics based on the source material is the third stone that we require. Now we will start collecting different mechanics from the past that we will remix into the final game. By this point, Capcom had also released some standout beat-em-up games, like Final Fight. Players will need to guide a character through hordes of enemies and bosses to reach the end and beat the game. This level design will be interesting if we can fit it in with the fighting system and comic adaptation that we've assembled so far. For this reason, we need it for our gauntlet. The next stone is found deep in the past, the classic Mega Man series. There are a few mechanics that we are going to implement. First is the stage select. This mechanic has been proven in many games, not just Mega Man.
But wait, there's more!
We can also use the weapon select system. Equipping different weapons changes the experience of the different stages and increases replay value. If we pull out all of these mechanics and polish them together, we will have our next stone. The last stone is usually voluntarily added into retro games by players, a randomizer. Capcom started including randomized elements into their games as far back as Adventures in the Magic Kingdom. This game is a unique licensed game because instead of adapting a film or television show, it adapts the Disneyland theme park onto the NES. The Big Thunder Mountain Railroad level assigns the player a randomized exit that has to be reached or the player will fail and need to try again. By adding the randomizer stone to our gauntlet, we have now reached full power. Let's take a closer look at what we have created. The foundation of the War of the Gems gauntlet is the unification of the purple fighting game stone and the orange beat-em-up stone. These two systems complement one another surprisingly well. The level design comes from a beat-em-up game, with hordes of enemies sent to slow down the player and a boss at the end of the level to finish the job. But instead of an isometric stage, War of the Gems stages have a single plane that better fits the fighting game combat. Players get one attack button and one jump button like a beat-em-up, but by including the directional inputs from a fighting game, more attacks are available to the player. Inputting a Hadouken while controlling Iron Man fires the repulsor beam. Input with Wolverine to get his wicked uppercut. And with the right input, Captain America can throw his shield in a variety of directions. This combination keeps the accessibility of a beat-em-up game, but raises the skill ceiling with a fighting game input. Moving to the blue stone of comic adaptation, another game comes to mind, a precursor to War of the Gems, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. This game also uses the hybrid fighting game, beat-em-up game system, but it takes its story from the X-Men comics. I haven't played this one myself, but it's on the list of games that I'm on the lookout for. War of the Gems adapts elements from the Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity War comic series. The player will control 5 different heroes in an effort to collect the Infinity Gems before Thanos. Now, if we take a look at the Red Stone, then we can see how the story in the comic is adapted into the game mechanic. As the gems are collected, 1 gem at a time can be equipped before starting a stage. Each gem will double a hero's stat, or the orange reality gem will add more pickups to the current stage. In addition to the gem power-ups, the player can use a consumable gem power item with the input up, forward, down, and attack to execute a powered-up strike. But now we get to the extra spice. Let's look at the green Mega Man gem. The stage select mechanic prevents the player from getting stuck right at the start of the game. If a stage is proving troublesome, then another stage can be selected instead of putting the game down. In Mega Man, weapons and tools are collected and then used to go back and make the difficult stages less difficult. The 5 different heroes that can be selected work like the different weapons that are collected in a Mega Man game. Different heroes can be used to make troublesome stages less troublesome. In the aquarium, the stage fills with water and the hero will need to progress quickly to avoid running out of air. My best character for this stage is Spider-Man because he moves the fastest. In the Amazon, the boss is Evil Wolverine. Many of Iron Man's attacks are too high, so I find that Captain America works best for me here. In Alaska, the stage has a high path and a low path. The high path has less enemies and more pickups, but to access it, you need either Wolverine or Spider-Man because they can climb walls. Experimenting with different heroes in different stages is key to making progress in War of the Gems. The rest of the mechanics reinforce this need for experimentation and increase the replayability, like the live system. If a hero runs out of health, they are knocked out, and the player will need to use a revive item to get them back in the action. So when I'm playing, I usually have a first string and a second string hero for each stage, depending on who is available. The yellow randomizer stone also reinforces this need for the player to experiment with what they have, because the gems are given out at random. So the player can't rely on having the red time gem for a speed boost in the aquarium, because they may not have it yet. The game opens with 4 initial stages. 2 gems can be found in these stages. Then there's a midpoint stage where the pink power gem will always be found. Then 4 more stages to play through, collecting 2 more gems, before the showdown with Thanos over the final gem. These mechanics combine to create a fantastic game that is very replayable. Each playthrough is different from the last one, with different heroes and gems available at different points of the game, encouraging the player to change up how they approach the different stages and bosses that are coming up. I love it when games use the best parts of a past game to create a new experience. A more modern example of this is Shovel Knight, using the pogo mechanic from DuckTales and the world map from Super Mario Bros. 3, along with many more examples to create a game that feels familiar but fresh at the same time. If you're looking for another unique blend of mechanics, check out my video on Super Mario Bros. 35. Most people interpreted this game as a Super Mario Battle Royale, but it doesn't pull mechanics from traditionally Battle Royale games like Fortnite or Tetris 99. Instead, it pulls mechanics from games like StarCraft, making for a wholly unique experience I really wish Nintendo would bring back. I really enjoyed that game, just as much as you will enjoy watching this next video. Thank you for watching.